Hey, yo, guys, what's going on? This is Aaron, a.k.a. Stud Muffin Supreme of the Rated R Wrestling Podcast, and this is sort of an extension of the video I did last night where I had my immediate reactions to the post-WrestleMania releases, budget cuts, whatever they want to spin it. Talked about all, I think it's now 24 releases, including what you see here, the Wyatt Sicks. And I wanted to make this video specifically about the Wyatt Sicks, and you can see by the title, the question is, why did the Wyatt Sicks fail? Now, as somebody who is a huge fan of the Bray Wyatt lore, mythos, I was obviously super pumped about the Wyatt Sicks when they debuted. I love Bo Dallas. I love the Uncle Howdy stuff that he was doing. The sit-down interviews, everything was awesome. I loved how it started. But you could tell I was underwhelmed by how it ended up progressing. So somebody who's a big fan, for me to be the one to come out and say that it failed, you know, I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, but Mike was not a big fan of this gimmick. So I feel like if he says something about it, one could be like, oh, well, you never liked it in the beginning, or you didn't like it at all, which is fair. He's entitled to not like that. But for somebody like myself who was a huge fan, this is something I feel makes a statement. So, why did the Wyatt Sicks fail? That's a good question. I really honestly think it all just comes down to the substance of the gimmick. Because as much as I loved Bray Wyatt had a bad track record, and not maybe of his own doing, but by a creative, that he had cool moments and his concepts were really revolutionary and awesome, but there was never a consistent follow through with it, right? Like when he debuted, it was amazing. The cult gimmick, the vignettes leading up to it, he was doing really good, and their matches with the Shield was awesome. But then when he lost to John Cena at WrestleMania 30, then it started going down. And then there was little peaks and valleys, right? Then we get, his WWE title win in 2017, which I'm like, holy crap, this is awesome. And then he loses to Orton at WrestleMania the following month, and then it kind of goes down. We saw a little bit of peak with Woken Matt Hardy. That didn't go down. Then we saw Firefly Funhouse Bray and The Fiend, and that was legitimately one of the coolest things. Probably the thing to me that was the saving grace of 2019 WWE television was The Fiend. And then we go to Saudi Arabia. Well, not even to Saudi Arabia. Seth Rollins killing him in the Hell in a Cell match. That didn't help. The cherry on the cake was Goldberg beating him in Saudi Arabia. Firefly Funhouse match brought it up a little bit. His Universal title feud with Braun Strowman later that year was decent, but it's the pandemic era. Then, of course, the random weird match he lost to Randy Orton at WrestleMania 37. Then he was released. Came back, brought his new version of Bray Wyatt. That was really cool, but it didn't do anything. Like, he just had cool segments. They introduced the Uncle Howdy character here. He was on and off TV, and like he had this small feud with LA Knight. That ended up being his last match. Was the Royal Rumble 2023. He feuded with Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar. They were teasing them both, and then nothing happened. And then, unfortunately, we lost Bray Wyatt later that year. So eventually they brought in the Wyatt Sicks. This was supposed to be an homage, a love letter to Bray Wyatt's vision, carried out by his brother Bo, and also featuring Erick Rowan, one of the original Wyatt family members. And I said in my last video, I said, with these two in there, I felt like that was enough to where it wasn't disrespecting the legacy. But again, you have to look at who's in creative. And even, yes, Triple H, he's in creative. He has the final say. So when we see this stuff happening, you have to understand and at least comprehend the fact that he's taking in these ideas, but at the end of the day, he's putting his yay or nay approval on things. And the debut was fantastic, especially the build-ups with all of like the music playing and the weird glitchy signals and vignettes, and it reminded me of when Bray returned back in 2022. I loved that stuff that was so meta that you couldn't realize, oh, what's happening? This is so crazy and cryptic. And then, you know, the Wyatt Sicks make that hell of a debut where they look like they murdered everybody. And as awesome as that debut was, I think that debut is the seed that have planted the idea that they were not going to go any further. They were going to have a ceiling. Because as cool as it is, you still have to look at the wrestling business. This is WWE. This isn't like Lucha Underground where people are getting unalived in segments. This is, you have to have some sort of semblance of realism. There has to be a suspension of disbelief. And the fact that they destroyed all of Gorilla Position, they received no ramifications from it. And, you know, okay, in the moment it was really cool, but in the long term, it doesn't seem like it's going to age well. That was my concern with it. Even though I loved it, I thought it was amazing. And I love that Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis were getting another crack at it. Nikki Cross was cool. I thought these were really cool additions to the Wyatt lore, and spearheaded by Bo. I loved the sit-down interviews. I mentioned this in the last video. I loved the sit-down interviews that they were doing after their debut, where Bo was talking to himself, and he was really, he was embodying Bray. He was the closest thing to it. Now, if you want to call it a ripoff, that's fine. I don't think it is, because he's his brother. And I feel like Bray would have gave his blessing for that. And that makes sense. People have been wanting Bo Dallas to be involved with the Wyatt storyline for years. I mean, ever since Bray Wyatt debuted, they want people clamoring for that. And that's what we got. And then, you know, he feuded with American Alpha or like whatever his group was, Chad Gable's group was. Once that fizzled out, they really didn't do anything. Then they kind of feuded with the Final Testament, and then that never went anywhere. They never got pay-per-view matches. That was the thing. They never gave them a big pay-per-view matches. That would have been great for a War Games. Then they were moved to SmackDown, and then they feuded with the MFTs. And, you know, Bo didn't really do anything as Uncle Howdy. And then they gave him the tag titles, and then that's it. They have this one final street fight with the MFTs before WrestleMania, which I thought that match, all right, if you're going to do this match, do it at Mania, get everybody on the card. And then they lose ceremoniously. They had that whole thing with the lantern being taken away, and they finally got it back. So it was like, okay, are the Wyatts going to get serious now? Are we going to get super serious? And then they're released. And that's what I think is the problem. Why did they fail? I think the gimmick might have just been too, like, in my opinion, ambitious. Some people may not like the gimmick, so I'm trying to pick my words carefully here. I think this gimmick just didn't gel well with the head of creative, Triple H. I don't know if he understood where it needed to go. I feel like if Bray was here, I think if Bray was still alive, I think him and Triple H could have worked to make that direction better. I'm hoping. Because we know now that Triple H wasn't really fully charging creative when Bray came back, because Vince still had his stranglehold in the business. We later found that out. But I'm saying is full-on control. I feel like Bray knew enough about what he wanted to do. I think that could have worked out better. But you have Bo, who's just carrying on the vision of his brother. It may not translate as well. And I think that became one of the ultimate issues. I mean, as cool as that character is, and I said this in the last video, where was it going to go? He wasn't going to have a giant historic title reign. He wasn't going to be in the main event fighting Roman Reigns or Cody Rhodes. I mean, that would have been cool, the Wyatt Sicks going after Cody Rhodes, but that wouldn't have been sustainable, I don't think. They wouldn't have been top-tier market. It's not like Bray was the closest one, in my opinion, that could have inherited the legendary spooky status that Undertaker had. I really think he would have. And Bo, even though he could have been, I don't think realistically he was going to be. And that's the unfortunate thing. And as much as I love the Wyatt Sicks and I love the Wyatt lore, it's a little bit bittersweet to see that this is possibly going to be the last time we ever see this stuff outside of the legacy stuff with Bray. It's a shame too. And some people might even say that's the best thing. Just be like, wipe your hands clean of it. Never touch it again, because a lot of people believe that it should have stayed gone when Bray passed away. I understand that argument. I won't argue against that argument, but I enjoyed the attempt. Like I said, that debut of the Wyatt Sicks was phenomenal, I thought. But yeah, so that's just, I wanted to follow up on that, add a little bit more context to why I thought the Wyatt Sicks failed. Let us know here in the comments why you think the Wyatt Sicks failed. Like, share, subscribe, stick around, stay tuned for more of our podcasts. Check out our podcast, Rated R Wrestling Podcast. We try to do one once a week. We took a break last week because of WrestleMania weekend, but we'll be back filming again. So check us out. Like I said, like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Aaron, a.k.a. Stud Muffin Supreme from the Rated R Wrestling Podcast. See you later.